Hola, hola. Welcome. We are going to learn something very emocionante today or exciting because I know you've been working very hard on your presente, right? And we've thought we've gotten to what is the pinnacle of what we can do with it, right? Okay, I know my irregulars and my regulars, and I can take off my AR, ER, IR and add my new endings. I can even stem change. I've got some yo forms I can work with. All of that is incredibly emocionante, but let me tell you what we're going to do today because it's very exciting. First of all, if we need more work on present, we absolutely can get it. We're going to work on conjugating only a couple of verbs today. We're actually going to be working more with what's called an infinitive. So an infinitive being that verb before you did any work to it. So with its AR attached like hablar or ER like comer. But we are going to be able to simulate the past and the future using formulas. So very exciting. Okay, let's begin. We are working on seis fórmulas today, okay? You don't need all of them equally. There are some that are better than others in terms of bang for buck. Just trying to make this a little bigger here. Here we go. So they're in order of importance, in my opinion, and from what I hear out in the day-to-day world. So primero, we're going to learn a future tense. It's not really the actual future tense, especially if you're reviewing and you're like, wait, I already learned a future tense. True. This is what's used to express something that hasn't happened yet with going to. So it's not I will visit this plaza in Valencia again. It's I am going to visit, or she or whoever. Using the verb ir, which we are going to conjugate for the first time today. Very exciting. The second one that we're going to learn is an obligation. Okay. It could be like, I have to pay my taxes, or she has to call me back after work. The third one is trying for the past, but let me just be clear. This is not just get out of jail free, use it in the past anytime you like. There is a lot of complexity to the past, especially if this is review for you and you're going, oh yeah, I know. We are only able to talk a certain way in the past right now using acabar de, and it's going to sound a little bit like this. It's going to sound like, I have just visited a foreign country. So if you did that action back in 2004, I have just visited Morocco in 2004. That sounds kind of weird to me because that's a long time ago. So normalmente, we're going to use this with immediate past. So for instance, if you're trying to do a check of, is it immediate enough? Was it last week, last month, or last year? If it's any longer ago than that, probably going to need to use a different type of past that we don't currently have. But fear not, we will go through it together. It will be fine. So what you might be thinking is, yesterday I have just, received a bill or something like that. And notice that you're hearing received or done or gone or visited, and we're not actually going to need to do that. So don't be intimidated. It's just that the English isn't matching as well as I would like, but we're still going to be using, as you can see down each of these lines, the infinitivo of the verb, which is, my hope is, what's on your flashcards, what's getting memorized by you really well, right? Where you go, oh, you want to know to travel, it's viajar. Well, viajar is what I'm going to want you to be putting into each of these formulas, okay? So that's the framing. If you have a bunch of flashcards with verbs on them, I would dig those out because this is going to be a great day to get to put them to work without having to directly conjugate them. It's very exciting. Now, these last three, I think they're useful and they follow the same format. So it's kind of like buy three, get three free, if you will, because you're already learning formulas. Why stop there? But you're saying, I stop staying up till midnight because I just can't get up in the morning. Or she quit complaining so much about her job. And again, this sounds like going to bed, complaining. But again, we're not doing anything fancy. That's the beauty of this formula. We're just using the infinitive here in dejar de for quit or stop. And for those of you that like to kind of rebound or, start and stop things, pick things up, put them down, you might take that same action and say, she's complaining about her job again. Now, there is a way to do that just using again separately, but if you want to say that the action is resurging, basically, she's returning to complain or the act of complaining, that's kind of how we're viewing it. So again, this is like a very small piece of the pie, as I'm sure you can kind of already imagine. We're going to use the top three quite a bit and these bottom three less so. And then I know that my sports are coming out and saying this, like, there's no trying, there's just doing, you know. But in life, we do try to do things and we don't always succeed, myself included for sure. So you could say, I try to prepare my meals on the weekends, or she tries to be sympathetic, but she has a tough time, you know, so things like that, where we're trying, but not claiming that we succeeded necessarily in doing something. And that'll use tratar de. Now, you probably notice this is trying to be a little bit of a math problem. You know, I love to maraud as a math student or teacher. But really this is for is we have a binder or some glue, cement, something in the middle that makes this formula run. And in each case, it's what's called a preposition. And it's one of these three. It's either a, que, or de. And if you're wondering, does it really matter? Do I have to use the one that you're saying? Yes, you do. So there's no artistic license here. You're going to need to remember that ir goes with a, so does volver, but that the days are for tratar and dejar and acabar. So that you have to memorize. What you could do if you wanted is make each of these their own flashcard, try to remember them, use them in a sentence to make it a little bit more robust practice. You could put them all on one card and say, what were those formulas I learned again? And try to list them all off. And if you do so, these may not be your cup of tea today, and that's absolutely fine. You could come back to them later. Again, it's just like when we're already here learning something, we might as well get a little more bang for buck out of it than just the first three. If you follow along in the libro, Complete Spanish Step by Step, there is a chapter 7, siete, that I would recommend checking out. It focuses mostly on numero uno, which is the ir a component, but it also does speak to a couple other formulas. I think they might even have one or two more that I didn't include on here. So feel free to do that practice later on. Okay, so let's get started with I'm yelling this at you, verbo nuevo. It's a hugely important verb that I bet you're thinking, ooh, I know I've heard this somewhere before. So it's muy importante to know how to conjugate ir. And that's right. Even though this verb is basically just an ending we've used before, like ar, ir, it's its own verb. This is the infinitive itself, ir. And this is the breakdown of the chart, which there is no way in humanity you would be able to figure this out without just seeing it written or having known it before. Your task, as usual, is to memorize this. So you're going to need to take this on board and say, okay, these V ones go with the verb ir in present tense. And we are going to be conjugating these both for this formula, as well as just standard sentences. I wanted to throw in some that show you don't have to make it going to visit or going to explain or something. It doesn't have to be that. It could just be going to a place. So I listed work, McDonald's, and the store as places you could be going. And this would be incredibly sencillo. So I'll just show you one example. You can feel free to fill in the rest on your own, but it would be they go and just be, okay, I'm finding my place on the chart, which I know is still something we're working on. Okay, that's not a problem. They is probably making you wonder, well, is that one person, is that feminine or masculine group? So just bear in mind that this is still a practice that needs some repetition, and don't you worry, I got you. So we'll assume there's one guy in the group, I guess, and go ellos. I'm going to borrow from this chart that I'm still just learning for the first time as van. I'm still going to use a, because anytime I'm going to a place, this preposition actually just kind of comes along anyhow. But the difference or the break from what I was showing you up in the formula is I'm not following with an infinitivo here. I'm actually just using a noun, like a person, place, or thing. And here it's just the place of la tienda, or if you prefer store as like supermarket, supermercado. And combining a and el would make al, by the way. We'll deal with that later, or just leave it as a la if you chose tienda, and boom. So that's a simple use that you can kind of get away with using ir, and you're going to do this all the time because people are constantly in motion and going places. So you'll use this time and time again, but if you want to use it in the format of our conversation today, something I did over and over, which I'm actually going to show you now, is I've got numero uno and dos and tres, cuatro, cinco, seis, just to scroll through. That's why this plan is so long. It's not due to complexity or tons of caveats. It's me just showing you in each instance in a formulaic fashion that this just happens over and over again. So you'll be noticing that, okay, I'm always choosing a subject in each of these, right? And then I'm having to conjugate whatever my verb was, right? So just be aware that it's the same formula time and time again. And so often when I'm teaching in class, I just use this up here so you can kind of see all of them at once. But if you want a breakdown of anyone in particular, feel free to look. And it is worth mentioning that not every verb is going to be as easy to conjugate as the next. Por ejemplo, ir, we had to learn a whole new chart just now, right? That's not lost on us. This is a brand new verb with brand new conjugations. Tener has always been a little tricky, no? Like, do we remember when we were back in lección 6A, learning all our irregulars? This one hit twice, right? It hit for the start of the chart being yo, right? We had to do tengo there. But then it also popped up again on the stem changers. Big bonus point. If you still remember, what stem changer do we put tener under? Or rather, what is this E turning into? See if you can remember. Feel free to pause. You're thinking of your chart. You're like, yes, it starts with tango. Then what do I do? Oh, right. Tienes. So the E is turning to an I-E. Except for the nosotros, because we don't stem change nosotros, right? So anyway, so we get comfortable with that. We say, okay, I know what to do with tener. It's a stem changer and a yo form irregular. So it's kind of a brat. But then we have this wonderful break here of two regular AR verbs. So you're just getting that practice yet again on, ooh, regular present tense. I got this. I've been working on that for a couple weeks. So you might say acabo, acabas, acaba, acabamos, and acaban, because pronunciation is not easy either, right? We're remembering our second to last, so on. Dejar turning into dejo, dejas, deja, and so on and so forth. Same is actually true for tratar. So none of these ARs are irregular, which is kind of a common thing. ARs are really nice. They don't tend to be irregular very often, which is a gift. Volver, though, you may notice, has an irregularity to it. It's one of the stem changers, the only one that uses an O. It turns into, pause if you need. It turns into vuelvo, vuelve. So this is the O-T-U-E stem changer. So again, all of our skeletons come out of our closet, right? As we move into new lesson plans and you were like, oh, thank goodness I'm able to wipe my hands of present tense and move on to something else. Not yet, mis amigos, not yet. We have to make sure we can conjugate each of these verbs to basically get out of the starting gates. And once we've done that, we have to pair it with the proper preposition. And finally, we get to just drag and drop in any verb we want. Okay, so we're going to give this a try. But basically, this is a lot, I think, of self-study where you're just making sure you're really solid on this 4-step process that you're going to do a million times. And that we're able to read it, provided translations as well. So like, ellos van a venir a la conferencia, trying to use like terminar, venir, like some pretty standard verbs. But remember, like, you can learn a verb tomorrow, not know how to conjugate it at all, but still put it in this formula, right? Because once you know the infinitive, you kind of know enough to use it here. Obviously, I recommend, since we were just talking about skeletons in our closet, that we don't take on a bunch of verbs and say, I got no idea how to conjugate this, but I know these fancy formulas, so I don't need to. We definitely still need to. But it's a useful way to get bang for buck on, hey, this went onto a flashcard and now it's in my sentence with no trouble, or little amount of trouble. So let's try an example here, right? We've got these written down, which I'm going to have you look at for homework, but I'm going to try my own, I guess. So I'm going to look up here at these and I'm going to say, let's see, we just got through the gauntlet 2 of like questions, right? So maybe I'm feeling bold and I want to try a question. I'll say, ¿a dónde vamos a vivir? O ¿a dónde vamos a viajar? O ¿a dónde vamos a quedarnos? All of these are to where, so kind of something that hasn't happened yet. Are we going to live, visit, travel, etc.? So something like that. And I'm kind of posing this as a donde, where, or ¿cuándo vamos a cenar? What would that one be? ¿Cuándo vamos a cenar? I know I'm hitting the vamos again for nosotros. I'm not even saying it, but I'm asking, when are we going to dine or eat dinner? So again, it's for things that have not occurred yet that we're using this first formula, this going to. And again, I really think this is nice because when you talk about future plans with your coworkers, because it's viernes and they want to know qué vas a hacer este fin de semana, one of my favorite phrases, which I'll actually just put here. ¿Qué vas a hacer este fin de semana? I mean, tell me a better water cooler question than this, right? This is like, they can choose what they want to share with you. It's real generic. And this is, what are you going to do this weekend? Now, I know we're still relatively new with our questions here. Do not feel tempted to use hacer in your answer. Right? So it's posed to you, and we got really good at mirroring, right? So it was posed to you as, what are you going to do? You don't have to respond with, I'm going to do. You're like, wait, I'm not actually going to do anything. Okay, hold on. Yo voy a correr, o yo voy a ver una película. I'm going to go see a movie, or I'm going to run or something. So you're probably going to put another action in, but you're asking that, what are you going to do? As in, like, what action are you going to pick this weekend? And I'm just using hacer as a bit of a placeholder. So that's a really nice, like, if you wanted something to take out of this top section of going to, ¿qué vas a hacer? What are you going to do? And then add in any timeline, today, tomorrow, this weekend, next month, over the summer. So you can throw a lot of vocabulary in here. Okay. All right. And we're remembering it's and we're putting in any verb we like. And then we're going to keep rolling to have to. We're remembering from seeing it perhaps. Tiene and tienen, tengo. The nosotros is going to be tenemos. So we're not stem changing that one, which hopefully is feeling a little bit more solid as time goes on. We're reminded that it has to be que in between. And that's tough because it doesn't sound like to, have to something. So remember that this is not a literal translation. This is a formula where there's kind of a magic that comes about only by combining these tres cosas together, the tener, the que, and then whatever infinitive you choose. So I'm just going to say a couple and see if you know them, and then maybe you can come up with your own. So if I say, ustedes tienen que estudiar más. Putting my teacher hat on, being bossy. I'm not actually commanding, right? Commands will come later, but I'm telling you the obligation that you all have, as you all have to study more, right? Very domineering. And I'm not actually saying that. Okay. I promise. I know you're studying plenty because you're watching this video. What if the next one would be, yo tengo que comprar comestibles. I don't know if anybody knows comestibles. Tengo que comprar comestibles. I like to think about eatables, and not like edible. Don't get carried away. This is, I have to buy groceries. Eatables, in my opinion, because you got come, almost comer in there, to eat. Okay, so have a thought for just a second, maybe hit pause. I would love for you to take a second. Now that we have dos of these, we've got tener que and one step backward, ir a. Are you able to come up with a sentence or a question or something that would show your use of these two really difficult verbs, ir and tener, incredibly useful verbs, that uses this formula? And then if you want extra practice, you could also say, and what if I don't use the formula? So for instance, I just said, tengo que comprar comestibles, but what if I just said, tengo comestibles? I have groceries, right? I could just possess them. I don't have to do an action necessarily. So hit pause, give it a try, write them down if you want to, and then repeat them out loud, whatever's going to work for you before we keep moving. But I'm assuming you already paused me, so now I'm moving. I'm assuming you listened. Okay, this is the hardest one, okay? The pronunciation of acabar is hard. The conjugation isn't, so that's not the problem. But you need to be able to confidently say, yo acabo de hablar, and I'm showing this immediacy. That's my favorite word to use here. Immediacy meaning it just immediately, in the past occurred. This is not something This is not a back in my day. This is not 25 years ago, right? This is, I have just spoken yesterday to this woman, or yeah, 2 weeks ago, I've just seen her. That's wild. I don't, something like that, where it's really recent. If they have just finished the project, it probably wasn't in, 2009 or something, right? So take a look at these examples and remember that your brain is going to serve you have. You're going to go have, that's tener. You need to hear the have, the just, right? So actually this whole phrase, I think we talk about this sometimes as like, you can't translate word by word anymore because you would get stuck with tener here. And then you'd be like, just like solo. And it would just get really convoluted and wrong. And you'd be off on a tangent. And then you halt in conversation and go, oh God, I know I'm not saying the right thing right now. So when you have a thought in the past right now, you're going to do your best to see if you can do it with acabar de. And if it's one of those, I used to go to that school when I was a kid, we just don't have it right now. We aren't able to express that. I know that's frustrating, but certain stuff just comes with more time. And that's a type of expression, like a back in my day or used to expression we just don't have yet. But if you do want to talk about something that happened somewhat recently, like this is great for travel, right? Like you're normally on a travel situation saying, we just got here a couple days ago. We just had dinner there 2 nights ago, because your trips are usually short. So everything has just happened. So think about that mentality. Like you're on a trip. You're not talking about your life way back when. You have not just attended. Bit of a strange one. You have not just, it's kind of odd, but just know you can do some negatives here. They just sound a little stilted because again, this English doesn't match well. So it's always going to sound a little awkward and not what you really wanted. And I get that. Okay. Now we're down to the ones that I think are less bang for buck. And I know we're already about 20 minutes in, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time on these because I want to get to the punchline, which is down below. So I want to show you what we're doing for homework today. It's very exciting, but very open-ended. So this might feel daunting to you. If that's the case, check out one of the assignments that I'll make available to you where you can just have a sentence given to you that you can translate. There's also a lot of examples up in this lesson plan, maybe 10, 15, where you can say, okay, I'm just going to borrow that idea, or that's a vocab word I like. You don't have to reinvent the wheel, okay, or make this really complicated, but I want to give you the space to write a full sentence using this so that everything can make sense. So in the example I'm providing, the ejemplo, I'm using cantar, and I want you to note that I'm only conjugating, my favorite, right? Conjugating one time, and it's here in the present, because I'm doing a swing right now from the past into the present into the future. So I want to make sure that I'm using cantar as a conjugated verb, my action, only this time. Otherwise, it's really just being dragged and dropped in as part of the formula. So let's pick a different one just to do this by ourselves. You can kind of get a feel for it. And then I promise I will end this so you can go practice on your own and get back to your life. So I'm going to choose my verbo as beber, to drink. And you may notice that I did different subjects. You don't have to do that. If it's more like flow state for you to just go yo, yo, and yo, do that. It doesn't matter. But I'm going to mix it up. I'm going to start with tú, and I'm going to say, you have just drank. So I'll say tú acabas, because I'm conjugating my first. I'm remembering it's day. And then and I'm going to physically do this. I am dropping it in. Okay, not twice. I'm dropping it in and just using it as it is. I'm not making it complicated. Okay. So tú acabas de beber. I don't know. I'm going to throw in 3 different drinks across this just so that I can practice my vocabulary. So maybe I'm learning new things and this is what I want to use. Then I'm in the present. And this is where I'm going back to my skills that I learned in lesson 5, lesson 6. I'm actually thinking, which one is it? Did I learn this one in lesson 5 or 6? AKA, is this a regular or an irregular verb, and so on. So let's say I finally, get through that crisis. I go, okay, it is regular. I just add the en, bebe, and everything's fine. Mucho vino, let's say, lots of wine. And then número 3, I have one more. I'll do nosotros. Now I'm in the future. Actually, I already did nosotros above. Let me do a different. Oh my gosh, I'm like following my template from before. I want to be different. I'm going to say él. And then I'm going to do bebe, so that I'm showing different examples, not just doing the same old, same old. And then I will do yo for this one. So I've got beber that I'm copying because I'm ready. But first, I've got to really know my chart. So I got to go back up here, right? And when I check that out all the way up here, I see I need voy. So I'm going to come back down and say yo voy I'm pasting in my beber one time this time. And then I'm going to use un refresco, let's say, which is a soda. So I'm practicing milk, wine, and soda. Please don't mix those, gross. But like you can note that there's going to be different vocabulary based on the verb you chose. And so try something that you really would use in the real world. Whether it be regular or irregular, it would actually be good if it was a blend. And then I'm left you some blanks where you're going to try to do this swing. So basically you're going to have acabas de beber is one of my formulas. So is voy a beber. And then I'm actually just putting this in for whatever reason, another color. I'm just conjugating the verb in the middle. So it's actually kind of a different use of beber in each instance. Okay. And if you want to test yourself, see if you know exactly what these mean, try putting in definitions. I will put this up as the video companion so that you can see an example here, but also the one that we did together. And if you want to try pausing and doing some of these like right now, I would recommend while it's fresh, doing a couple and then coming back and doing some more, because if I don't talk about this enough, within 48 hours or so of watching this video, like do something with it, whatever it might be. If it's, I didn't get that at all, I'm just going to go back and watch it again. Fine. If it's, there were some examples, I'm going to try filling those in, or she referred to this chapter 7 that I could go back and check. I'll go to chapter 7 and see how they explain it, see if it helps me more, fill in some blanks, do something. Definitely do something within 48 hours, because as you know, from any other course you've taken or any other skill you've learned, you don't just get the check in the box for having watched the video. That doesn't, it teaches you, it instructs you, right? But it doesn't, you're not doing it until you're doing it. So within 48 hours from now, when you hit pause, see if you can write something down, give it a try, print this out, whatever you need to do. But this is un tema un poco complejo. It's a little bit complicated because now we're taking into account basically a verb that we're conjugating, a preposition that has to be there, and then another verb. But just remember that like we have a timeline now. We were living, as I always joke, in cave people speak for a little while, where we were only able to live in the moment. And now we do have that kind of just recent past, as well as the future, that we're able to express some obligation, stops and starts, and trying to do things. So it's a whole new world just using the present after today, but it's going to take some repetition and some practice. So making those flashcards, getting into your textbook, trying out the examples, rewatching this video if need be, all of that's going to ayudar muchísimo. So thanks for being here. I'm excited to see you for some more grammar soon. And if you want to watch this all over again, or if this was part of your review, good on you, because it's just going to put more depth behind what you learned today, because it's tough the first time around. I do recall. So muchas gracias and hasta luego.